wanted to show you guys, you could be 15, 18, 21. The second you decide to hop off the porch and to start living the life you want to live, to become the person you want to become, I'm not saying that you just naturally become an adult, but once you, and I'm saying like no plan B. Okay, that sounds crazy. All right. Is the lighting okay on that? Perfect. I'd like to welcome you guys back to another episode of. I should have figured out if I was going to make this Dream Chasers Insanity or if I was going to add it to the Shamanic Healing series, but I'm thinking right now in this real-time game time decision, we're going to add this to Shamanic Healing series because this might be a point of the journey that you're on that you might be feeling stagnation at. And I want you to be able to address that with clarity before trying to force your way onto that dream chaser's path and then running yourself into a dead end, or even worse than that, facing failure or facing rejection and then jumping off the path completely. So that's why it's very interesting that we started both of these series at the same time, because they really intertwine within each other or between each other. The healing is the internal work that we're doing and the transformation that's happening inside that's allowing us to become the person that we want to be, to then create the reality, make the choices that create the circumstances around us to align with the reality that we're dreaming of, or it's calling us to build from the inside. It's one thing that you're going to realize in this world that we live in, especially if you're young and you have goals or you have like really, really, really big intentions for your life, you have to realize how many people are just okay getting by Sunday to Saturday every single week for the rest of their lives, no matter what happens. And I hope that these times that we're living in right now, where literally the whole entire trajectory of the world, of the future, of the economy can change in a split second because of one person or one group's decisions, I want us to be able to work through that chaos and be able to leverage that chaos and the immense change that's happening all at once to be able to direct us into, with really a more efficiency, the life that we want to live. And one thing also I do hope that you guys are really starting to understand with the things that are happening in the world right now, not just even in America, are most of the things that we believed or fact or law are just widely held opinions or beliefs. And they've grown so consistent with what we believe the truth is to be, and really haven't faced any opposition to be exposed as opinions. We've just taken that as face value, our experience as what our identity was able to feed us. But hopefully in the breaking down of all that is, and this is a quote that I wrote before even kind of thinking about this episode. Hopefully in the breaking down of all that is in this reality, not even just like the world itself, but the ideological, like philosophical ideas, structures, and systems of this world, you're realizing this is the best opportunity you have to not only transition yourself into the person that you want to be, but to start creating that life that you want to live. And finding where in the world, what community, what environment, what system, what people can support you in actualizing that. Because now you are not under the psychosis of American exceptionalism. Now you're not under the psychosis of, well, I am whatever the master needs me to be. You can choose at this point with your own circumstances to be under the mercy of who you want to be, because you feel called to pursue that path. You feel called to do that thing in this life. Now, what steps will you take to make that happen? Or what limitations will you create in your own mind and you believe to inhibit you from doing that thing, to probably keep you comfortable in the life that you're living right now? Now, before we get into the video, go ahead and check out the links that we got in the description if you'd like to support the channel. And if your wallet is not agreeing with that situation that I'm presenting you, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, do all the cool things that get us working through the algorithm, because apparently, allegedly, fair use case over here, YouTube doesn't like black people. But that's okay, because we're about to present a whole bunch of new faces that the world can appreciate through the medium that is YouTube. So even if YouTube doesn't appreciate us, the people who need to and the people who do consume our culture and desire to collaborate with us and desire to appreciate and share our vision, our world, our consciousness with the world with love and respect can still access us. So we're not relying on YouTube. We're relying on the people, on connection, on community, on culture, on all that shit that's real. That we're just using these tools, these tech platforms, to hopefully make more efficient or to facilitate, which obviously they haven't been. But other than that, let's get into the video. All right. I don't know if you get it yet. Nobody knows what's going on. And I hope that you're receiving this information at a point in your life where you can actually make major changes, or at least not changes, but pivots into closer towards at least the life that you want to live. Because I'm telling you right now, nobody knows what is going on. And one thing that I'm realizing is, especially somebody that doesn't come from like a backing or a foundation of like financial abundance or even literacy at that point, I believe that so many of us are so overwhelmed or so desperate for the validation that comes with knowing what we're doing, with having an identity, with having a career. We make decisions and we take on all these responsibilities to almost compensate the fear and confusion in our identity. Let me further explain that. We take on these titles and even responsibilities as a means of feeling like we are, or at least we're working ourselves towards the person that we want to become. And if we're in line with that in a way that also garners us social validation, then it's going to allow that process of becoming, especially maturing from immature to mature, it's going to make that process feel a lot easier, or at least a lot more comfortable than naturally it does, especially without that kind of support. But one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that we live so much so in a world where people are afraid of being anything beyond the validation that they see, not even just in their real life, but what they see on social media. And in that, people are not only afraid to be who they are, but people are afraid of becoming something new beyond what that validation is. Everybody is, I don't want to get too far from myself here, but the point that I'm trying to get at is that everybody is staring at each other for what they're supposed to do, while also like simultaneously judging each other for doing the thing wrong, but nobody knows what they're supposed to do. And that's the trick of the whole situation. Nobody knows what's going on, but even in that, we're still holding everybody to this expectation or this standard of like, you're supposed to be this, or you're supposed to know this, and you're supposed to fall in line with this because this is just what we all do. And the more I've sat back and just observed people following through with that and taking on responsibilities that are overwhelming, I'm realizing how nobody knows what's going on. Very few people ever knew what was going on, and tried to sell us, the general populace, this illusion of them knowing what was going on for the sake of keeping us comfortable and ignorant to perpetuate this system that we have, at the mercy of us not being prepared to deal with consequences that come with not knowing what's going on. Because when you don't know what's happening, you're not allowed to prepare for what could happen on the back end of that. I believe in that, and this conversation has a lot to do with just like adulthood and the process of maturity and maturing. We live in a reality where there are so few opportunities to genuinely like invest yourself in and grow into your maturity. So we force overwhelming responsibilities onto people, and then we tell them, hey, having a child and raising a family or taking on $50,000 of debt at 18 years old, that is going to turn you into an adult. Getting a mortgage at 25 years old when you already have a family too that you're paying for, and you already have this that you're paying for, and your job isn't paying you enough, that is being an adult. And do you see, like, when people who don't understand adulthood isn't necessarily in the overwhelming like responsibilities that you can uphold from society for their validation. It's in the responsibility that you can take for your own circumstances at whatever point in your life that you're in, and how you can commit to that responsibility that you're taking. Now, I know that may not make a lot of sense, but to connect that back to what I'm saying, there's a whole lot of people who have taken on responsibilities having a family because they thought they had to, because they thought they're supposed to, because that's what adults do, because they're afraid of being left out because all of their friends or their peers are having families and kids and they aren't. Not knowing the intention behind this wasn't to take the responsibility of having a family. The feeling was inside, I want to be seen as an adult, or I'm tired of being seen as a child and not being respected like an adult. So I'm going to take on this overwhelming responsibility and hope that going in debt to something that I'm not really sure if I'm committing to, one, I'm sitting here acting like that's not going to traumatize me emotionally and mentally. But two, I'm sitting here acting as if this isn't going to, the expectation that I've put on this thing to save me is going to be in alignment with the responsibility that I'm going to have to take for it anyway. I feel like I'm using so many different words here. That's why I keep on wanting to tie in analogies to this. But my perception of adulthood, at least, as somebody who is, because I'm only 23 years old, but as somebody who struggles to be accepted as a traditional adult in this reality that we're living in, I'm realizing that adulthood, at least in the social sense, it's more so, how can I take on all these overwhelming responsibilities and be so stressed out by them and then act like the reason why I'm doing this, it makes such little sense to me. Even trying to explain this makes no sense. But adulthood is just taking on overwhelming responsibilities to be seen as an adult, because kids can't take on overwhelming responsibilities, or they can't commit to taking those responsibilities because they're immature or they're lazy or they're tag on some kind of derogatory term there. Rather than maturity coming from you following the calling that you feel is in your heart, what you want to do, who you want to be, and then going through the trials and tribulations that are inevitable on the path of attempting to pursue something, or fundamentally attempting to turn an idea that is internal, intangible, into a tangible thing, or at least a materialized reality. But on that latter path that I'm describing, you have to be willing to be completely void of validation. Like, not just, oh, put validation on the side and focus on yourself, choose you. I'm saying like void of validation. Because you'll get so deep on this path of becoming yourself, the world, if the validation even matters anymore, the world will be at the mercy of your ability to tap into your own depth and sharing that with the world, rather than you constantly suppressing who you really are to chase the masks that the world is choosing to validate at that time, which is probably trendy and probably going to go away for the next hot trend in however much time it takes for people to get bored, which is very, very quickly in this world. I want to add on to that saying, our traditional sense of adulthood is, it's almost like being enslaved to that responsibility as well. It's not just, oh, well, take out $10,000 of debt and then either go to school for a year or try to run a business, and then that will maybe max out at it. Okay, we're not going to get into specific like economics here, but say you lose all 10,000 of that. That's going to tell you a whole lot more than graduating and then having $100,000 of debt and not being able to find a job. But somehow it's just everybody's doing it, or they're only going to pick up people with a college degree, or they're only going to the world wants. But what happens if the world itself doesn't even know what it wants? And the world is just like a laser pointer to cats, just pointing its laser everywhere and seeing who's willing to follow the laser. It's weird because parents love talking about how if all your friends jumped off a cliff, would you do it too? That's our whole entire society. Everybody on every corner just sees something and says, oh, we're going to jump off the cliff and get this. Nobody even knows that they're going to get the thing that they're being promised. And everybody just jumps off the cliff. And 70% of the people just jump off the cliff because they see everybody else doing it. 70%. It's difficult. It's difficult. And I don't think there's anything worse than adults, especially adults who have failed at pursuing their dreams or the life that they want to live or getting what they want, or at least they're just disappointed in the life that they have, to turn around and then discourage younger people who still have opportunity and potential from pursuing their own path or a path in alignment with what they genuinely want, as if they don't know, at least have an idea of what could be best for them in this life. I understand kids don't know everything. I understand kids are going to make mistakes and fuck up, but that's what you're here for. That's what parents and family and community is here for. When kids fuck up, we correct them so they can continue to be better human beings through experience and the way that they're educated through that experience. Not just filled up with fears and struggles and like all these identity issues for the sake of going into the world feeling so lost and lonely that they just take up anything to feel like they can accept themselves. And then you wonder why we live in the world that we live in right now. We're going to conclude this little section of the video by saying we have to transform what our perspective of adulthood is, especially as people are getting a lot more financially savvy and smarter, in the sense that people are realizing, is there really a housing crisis, or did I ever want to have a mortgage, like a 30-year mortgage? Was there ever a job employment crisis, or are there just not supposed to be this many people seeking employment from that few employers? And there's supposed to be a lot more mom and pop shops, a lot more small businesses, a lot more online businesses, a lot more personal brands and community collectives. Maybe the issues that we're being faced with in this world, especially as people who never really felt genuinely accepted by the traditional like scheme of adulthood and just like general society, maybe that's just an opportunity for us to see that we are supposed to go the other direction. But it's our fear of losing the incentives that come with being accepted by the mainstream that's stopping us from pursuing that path, even if pursuing the mainstream is actually destroying our health and our livelihood. I'll say it again. I said this in the intro. The best time to create a new life for yourself is when the world is crashing around you. And you could either take that as a relationship crashing. You could take that as your family kicking you out. You can take that as you getting even like removed from an environment that you were once dependent on or supporting from. You can take that as your country crumbling around you. The best time to create a new life is when the old world around you is burning, because then you finally get to see what was real and how much of this shit was just real because we were all too afraid to be curious enough to see that maybe there's something more to this that we're not being told. Now all of those shells and masks are getting blown down. They're getting burned down right now. And we're not just seeing what is real in our society, but we're going to see from this experience who is real in our society. Because now you're going to be faced with making the decisions that you were probably avoiding. Now you're going to have to really see, hey, are these responsibilities that I have took, the mortgage that I'm paying for, the job that I'm pursuing, the relationship that I'm in, are these really things that I can commit to in spite of the whole entire world crashing around me, in spite of literally there being immense hopelessness in the society that I live in right now? Is what I've committed to strong enough to help support not just me, but what I've created through this type of world we're living in, through this era, this chaos? Or was I just attaching myself to these things for the sake of being seen as an adult, being accepted, and still being able to maintain my acceptance in these communities that I'm a part of and not be rejected because people aren't willing to respect me how I desire to be respected? or seen as. A great song to address that is what's this dude's name? One of my favorite white people on planet Earth, Sting. Go check out The Police. When the world is coming down, make the best of what's around. When the world is going down, you make the best of what's around. Now, there's a reason why I call one of those these playlists that I have Dropout Professor. There's a reason why I call it that. And one thing that I'm realizing is somebody who's had to go the non-traditional route as a means of accessing the upper echelons of society. I'm seeing that so many, especially like college educated or corporate, like I don't even want to say executive, but just corporate level employed people, it really is a mask. Like once you become an adult, it's what do you do for work? Where'd you go to school? And are you in a relationship, or are we going to go to the club every single weekend until you get into one? And it's just, as somebody who's seen, who knows that there's so much more to the life that I have to live beyond the circumstances that I was dealt with when I came here, and beyond the expectation for my identity in this current reality. I knew the only way to access the life that I was supposed to live was not going to be taking the same steps as everybody else. And I'm realizing, I don't know how real this is, because there's no really scientific evidence to back it up, but there's a little bit of your health, and maybe it's just mental health or emotional health. It's so important that you're able to pursue the life that you want to live and at least become the person that you want to be. Like if your circumstances and the choices that you've made and the commitments that you have in your life aren't reflective of that at the utmost point, they're bound to disappoint you. Or you're bound to develop some kind of resentment for them not fulfilling you in the way that you feel like you deserve to be fulfilled, to support you in, again, being that person you want to be or living the life that you want to live. And that's where the concept of, or at least my understanding of the midlife crisis comes from. It's taking on all this responsibility, knowing that, okay, well, in the moment, in my young, whether I'm 18 years old, whether I'm 20 years old, 25 years old, just something below 30, I feel like I'm not an adult, or I'm not being accepted or appreciated as an adult because I don't have a house, I don't have a relationship, I don't have kids or any of that stuff. So I'm going to take on all these responsibilities like we were describing earlier as a means of getting that acceptance, but really not being cognizant to the responsibility, the lifetime responsibility that will come on the back end of me agreeing to step on this path. And I'm also not going to know how much more difficult it's going to be for me to not only figure out, but to pursue the path that I want to pursue now that it is on the back end of this other responsibility that I've already upheld or I've already taken up. And that's something where I had to deal with. I had to go no contact with both of my parents, because when you have adult children for parents, you got to let them handle that shit on their own, bro. Like, we got to be grown in this world at this point, especially if everyone's an adult in the situation. But to not get too deep into that, oh, wait, no, I know exactly what I was going to say. I was going to have to clip that. To just get to what resonates with the conversation we're having now, I could tell that my mom wanted to be more than just a mom. But she didn't get to be that, or at least begin pursuing that path, until after she had already become a mom. And again, I'm like hypervigilant too, so like that may play a role into it. But you can see, especially during like times of anger or outbursts of anger, you could hear even at points certain remarks and phrases that would tell you, you are the reason why I haven't actualized the life that I wanted to live, or I am not the person I want to be, or I'm not as pretty as I could have been, or I'm not here and I'm not this. But fundamentally, it's not. Like as a child, like I didn't choose to be here. But it's difficult knowing that even the parent like can have a child and can still hang on to the resentment that comes with, hey, you who I have to take care of, I don't want to because I should be taking care of myself and my own responsibilities. And I'm going to only take care of you enough until you can take care of yourself. And then I'm going to see that you start taking care of me to support me and making sure that I do what I want to do at the mercy of you being your own independent human being. Because that's how you're going to pay me back for taking the life that I wanted to live away from me. And some people go the midlife crisis a different route other than blaming their kids for existing. Some people go the route of like literally deleting their whole entire family. Some people go the route of divorcing their spouse and just running away and just doing whatever they want. But so many people don't realize, and we don't accept how young 18, 20, 21 years old even is, how much of a child you still are at that point and how little adult life experience you have beyond high school even. But that midlife crisis is finally realizing when it's already too late that you aren't living the life that you want to live. And the only thing you can do as a means of like breaking out of this confinement that is your reality and your circumstances is punishing all the people around you or complaining about how much suffering you go through by living the life that, again, you chose to live. But again, you chose it at a point in your life where your brain hasn't developed. And I'm not even going to say that 26 your brain fully develops. I don't believe in any of that shit at all. But you haven't had the experience, the education, or the awareness to even make a coherent decision that would last beyond just the validation you're trying to feel right now. And if you maybe had a year, 3 years, 5 years to sit down and really experience life, really absorb culture, understand consciousness as it exists beyond yourself, maybe you would make completely different decisions and you would still take on crazy, great responsibilities. But it would be responsibilities that, whether you fail or succeed, still continue to promote you and the person you're becoming and push you further on that path. It's weird. It's people, and a lot of people, especially a lot of parents, they want to kind of get on you for not having kids. Especially like women, they want to get on women for like not having kids at like a young age. But at the end of the day, running a business is damn near like having your own child. The amount of attention and focus that you need to put on the business, especially in its birthing and its youth phases, are ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So you're sitting here invalidating somebody who's chosen a different set of responsibilities that will definitely come with a lot more abundance on the back end of that if they're successful than you. Because you have to now, after the life that your child stole the life that you have, or whatever responsibility, whatever debt that you have stole the life that you could be living, you have to hope that paying off that debt is going to compensate you for everything that you sacrificed, for a decision that you didn't even 100% make for yourself. But you were so ready to chase the validation of a bunch of other people who also don't know what's going on. And you know what's scary? What's even scary about this whole entire conversation about people that don't know what's going on? In this social media era, we don't realize it's not only people are lying about who they are in the real world before they present some facade on social media. A lot of people are rich, like Nepo baby rich in the real world. And they're cosplaying like they made it on their own. They're cosplaying like they get their own money. They're cosplaying like they make $10,000 a month. They don't. Their parent is paying for their rent. You really have to sit for a half second and see half of these people, of 100% of the people in the room, half of these people are lying about where they at. The other half are being supported in ways that you don't even have access to. And if you had that support, your life and the decisions you make would be completely different. But you're sitting here holding yourself up to a standard of people who nobody is being who they really say they are. And you're creating all these expectations just to disappoint yourself because you want their validation, because you feel like even validating yourself isn't enough. And when it gets to the point where, and I'm not trying to make this like a religious video or anything, but when it gets to the point where you're just constantly put in the world to just reject yourself, or at least you're not given opportunities to accept yourself and to discover who you are in your unique nature. That desire for acceptance, that desire for salvation just grows so immense and so existential. The only thing that can really be there for you at that point is like a God figure. Not knowing that it was inspired by rejecting yourself so much that you had to run so far away from yourself for acceptance, for validation. And mind you, this situation doesn't even have to only apply to having a child or taking on a mortgage or pursuing a job that you don't like. This could even be getting tattoos, taking drugs, like negative shit that people apparently act like they don't do, but obviously a bunch of people are doing. So I know we haven't said the word permission a lot in this video, even though this whole entire video is supposed to be about like stop waiting for permission to live your life. I just wanted to make sure that we introduce this topic and this concept by saying how many people are literally just running around society with their heads cut off, like chicken with their heads cut off. We're just kind of going until the legs stop moving, hoping that you don't see that they don't have a head. Now, how does this all kind of connect itself to stop waiting for permission to live your life? I really wanted to make that the beginning part because I wanted to show you guys you could be 15, 18, 21. The second you decide to hop off the porch and to start living the life you want to live, to become the person you want to become, I'm not saying that you just naturally become an adult, but once you, and I'm saying like no plan B. Okay, that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy. Once you've fully committed to plan A and you've said, I'm not going to let plan B, C, or D sit back here and let me resort to them if plan A starts to get too scary. Plan A is going to work and I will either succeed or fail pursuing plan A. And if I'm still alive on the back end of this, then I will create a new plan A. But there is no more, 1 foot in and then maybe a toe. Like, no. Once we've fully committed to the path, then you realize, one, other than the fact that there's no going back, so few people are willing to even put themselves in a position to believe in something that deeply and then beyond believing in it, act upon those beliefs until that belief or that vision turns into materialized reality for other people who can't see the vision before it's materialized to then support and contribute to. Most people are not willing to, and again, I'm not, I don't want to make this like religious or anything, but most people in their own lives are not willing to go take that walk up the mountaintop and hear, not from God around them telling them what to do, but to listen to their own soul and to be silent enough to feel what their soul is trying to communicate with them. And then to bring that back to reality and say, this is who I am. Because I know in my heart of hearts, in the relationship that I've developed with myself, this is who I came to this world to be. And I'm going to now craft a life outside of that to support me in actualizing that. And that's when the life that you're living becomes about more than the compensation you can get for working a job. It becomes more than about the validation you get for your identity. It becomes about your ability to follow your calling and to actualize that into this reality. It becomes a part of your food, bro. A part of your diet. And what's funny is that we've walked ourselves so far to a point in society to where you're even seeing memes. Like, reality got so bad, or late stage capitalism got so bad, that I actually started chasing my dreams. Or chasing my dreams looked like a good idea. And I'm hoping, again, this is why I call this, or at least the other part of the series, Dream Chases Insanity, because it almost, the people who decide to chase their dreams in a reality that seems like it makes sense are always going to be looked at as delusional, because they're sacrificing convenience, comfort, basic, the expectation for fully believing in the intention that they have and what can come on the back end of going all in with the intention. That's why dream chasers are called insane, bro. And that's why I called that freaking playlist Dream Chasers Insanity. Because you have to be willing to literally drink your own Kool-Aid first and be deluded by your own vision, your own dream first. So much so that it's already real in your own brain. And the second step is just making it real in the real world. But I hope with all that being said, you also take into effect that on a federal, like a national level, our systems, like social mobility support systems, those are all getting kicked out. There is literally zero ladder to go from lower class to upper class. The only thing was the federal government, and now that thing's getting gutted up by, again, this is, you will see the first trillionaire. You will, at the mercy of American people being able to eat and breathe, you will see the first trillionaire come out of America in the next 10 years. I can almost guarantee you that. If we continue to just allow things to happen as they're going, and again, I'll save more of those sociological, cultural conversations for my podcast, but I just want to also tie that into this and how important it is. When you remove systems like, and again, these systems were already broken beforehand, and we could have fixed them, but now we're just destroying them. When you remove systems like the Department of Education, you're basically saying that the only people we want in higher society are private school kids. When you remove systems like DEI, you're saying, hey, not only do we not want to humanize you whatsoever, or even work with you and collaborate with you in this American cultural diversity, we just want to make all the money of this society and then to spend it on pissing on you when we step out of our petri dish offices and have to exist with your animal human asses in the real world. When you remove something like social services and even like Social Security, you're telling people that they cannot make a single mistake in your society or else they'll be homeless, in jail, or excommunicated, or at least at the mercy of being excommunicated. I'm not saying any of this to fearmonger, because at the end of the day, this is reality. Like, this stuff has been done and it's being implemented. What I'm trying to say is that, and especially as this pertains to what I was saying earlier in the video, how when society's burning itself down, the only thing that's going to stand are the people who are real and the systems that were real. Now we're getting to that. If the social mobility ladder is dead, the only people that are going to make it from below to above the glass ceiling are the most ambitious, insane people you've ever seen on planet Earth. I don't think these people will be created by being raised by anything except their own circumstances and fueled by anything except their own ambitious delusion to be more than what their circumstances are showing them. Now, this isn't going to be a situation like you can industry plant, like pick somebody up and then put a plan next to this person. And then now, okay, let's try to convince the public to support this person long enough to sell all our products and propaganda through them. I'm saying that legacy builders are being built in this type of time. The world that we live in wants to only speak about how rich people get rich during a recession or during a depression, but we also forget that new leaders are crafted in that muck that is the bottom of society, because in their heart, they know they're not supposed to be there. They know what they say, what they do, how they share themselves with the world is supposed to be broadcasted. It's supposed to be shared with others. It's supposed to be appreciated. And being so deep down in that crabs in a bucket, that piss hole that is the bottom of American society, is not for them. Now, of course, that ambition can be very, very abrasive. And it's very uncomfortable to hang around when you're not an ambitious person, or when you don't have the capacity emotionally to hold that or support somebody who is like that. But the world that we're looking at, or at least the world we're walking into, it's not one that's going to be given to us by like a government protecting our rights or giving us rights necessarily. this, at least future era of reality we're walking into, the most ambitious, and on top of that, capable, but the most ambitious people will take as much as humanly possible of this world for themselves, because everything is up for grabs. Everything. And hopefully those ambitious people are also connected to creative people, so they don't only take what the world has to offer, but they can create and compensate back to the world with their art, with their creativity, with their art, with their consciousness and its uniqueness. But there's, again, so few people who genuinely have that and can maintain that ambition and that delusion through all of the negative things that many people still have yet to endure. Homeless, heartbroken, broke as shit, isolated, rejected from your family, not having any support system. Many people are quitting once they face one of those. Now, how about facing all of those? And still on top of that, you're also being rejected from who you want to be. And you're also being told, or at least other people are being told when they critique you, that you're crazy because you're continuing to believe in this dream, even though it is sabotaging your circumstances or your life. Now, again, I'm not saying that to say, like, if you're a rapper and you make shit music, to keep on destroying your life to pursue a dream. We have to be realistic at some point, and hopefully we also provide clarity for that on this page. But you have to realize, unless it's a Nepo baby or it's an industry plant, you don't go from the bottom to the top without clawing your way at every single grip of the climb to the top. Everything. Because nobody gives you anything. And the sooner you're willing to accept that nobody's going to give you shit, nobody's going to help you out, and if they do, you can appreciate that, but nobody's going to want to help you out more than they want to use you to help themselves out, then you're going to realize it's just business at the end of the day. And everybody's just doing what they can with what they know. And really at the mercy of what they believe on top of that. But the longer you wait for permission to live the life that you want to live in this world, and I'm not saying like obstructing other people's well-being, I'm saying permission for the life that you know you came here to live. Fully being the person that you want to be. The longer you wait for that validation, I'm telling you right now, it's never going to come. Because if those other people that you're looking for validation for were living the life that they wanted to live, they probably wouldn't be hating on you trying to create the life that you want to live. Or they probably wouldn't be holding you back from or obstructing you from creating those circumstances. Because people who aren't living the life they want to live, they want buddies that they can nudge on that are also struggling and also hate their lives. So they can be in community, trauma bonded with other people who are struggling, rather than elevating themselves from their circumstances. And I'm not saying the bootstrap method. I understand we all got to help each other. Communities raise children and communities support each other. But you have to realize a lot more people than not don't have that ambition. They don't have that desire, that drive to be more than their circumstances. And because of that, you having that ambition is going to make them so insecure. The only way they feel like they'll have power over the circumstance is blocking your blessings or stopping you from creating that life. So it doesn't remind them that their limitations are created in their own head and they're at the mercy of breaking them or validating them. And it's nobody else's responsibility to do that but themselves. So hopefully you guys are ready. Hopefully you guys are ready for the world that we're really being forced into. But a lot of things are going to change for a lot of people. And I don't believe, how can I say this? I really believe that you just have to decide who you want to be and start creating that. Live a life on the other side of that. Rather than waiting for, well, if I just craft it the right way, maybe those people will support me. If I just position myself properly, maybe they'll like me. Well, if I just put it out at this time, at this consistency, at this pace, forget all that shit, bro. Forget all that shit. Because you know what's crazy? All the people that would support you, all the people that would appreciate you, all the people that would benefit from what you have to share with the world and you being your real self, how are they going to do it if you just aren't being that already? At least pursuing it. Then it's just you telling them what you are, but you're not being that, and then them looking at you not being what you say you are and then getting disappointed and then leaving you. You're waiting on validation that's never going to come. And most people, more people than not, sadly, are so overwhelmed by the chaos that's happening in reality as it's crashing around us, and so afraid because they don't know what validation to seek, even though they're addicted to the validation that comes externally to them, as a consequence of not being able to self-accept, which creates a void in the heart. We'll get into the spiritual science of that at another point, but when the world is going down, you make the best of what's around. Yeah, that's all I gotta say with this video. So hopefully you guys take this as an opportunity to decide, who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? Like, are you living a life? This is actually way better outro for this video. How about, instead of you looking at your life as like, okay, I'm trying to perfect this mask in a way that allows me for this other thing, find out what the other thing is that you want. Do you want love? Do you want acceptance? Do you want validation? Do you want somebody to let you be vulnerable? Do you want to cry in somebody's arms? Do you want somebody to say that it's okay? Do you want somebody to say that that trauma you went through was real? And try to create, at least give yourself the power and the authority to directly ask for that thing. Or at least align yourself with whatever that thing is. But it's chasing that validation. And if the only reason why you pursue these responsibilities is to chase validation, you don't even know if you're somebody who's capable of properly upholding the responsibilities that come with those decisions. And once you've taken them, there's nobody to blame but yourself. So you might as well blame yourself for making decisions that are in alignment at all points with who you want to be and the path that you chose. Before you start doing things like having kids in this world and then denying them an opportunity to have a parent, denying them an opportunity to have a father or a mother or a support system, a figure that they can look up to and be inspired by, because you feel like they're blocking you or they're stopping you from living the life you want to live, as if you couldn't just have lived that life first. I'm excited though. I'm excited to see who these new leaders are of society, of industry, because this is not going to be a white man's world for long. As much as these people want it, and as much as they promote that make America great again bullshit, like, this is not going to be that type of world, especially America. The only reason why I got a podcast coming out on that, so check out the Trojan Horse podcast that I made. It's going to be out by the time I drop this, so go check out on literally every platform you could stream a podcast on. Go check that out. Modern Slaves of Mind Games. Shameless plug, because this is all I do. Other than that, I hope you guys, are ready to make some serious changes as the world is acting real crazy around us, and hopefully those changes are closer and closer towards the life that you genuinely want to live. I know I keep on saying that, but it's important at the end of the day. Like, why would you do all of this healing? Why would you do all of this self-discovery? Why would you pursue this path of consciousness, of personal development, if it wasn't getting you closer to those things? I mean, you've seen the freaking the red pill incel losers. You've seen those guys who they get the money, they get the cars, they get the nice 20,000 a month apartment. I mean, they don't get the girls, they buy the girls, but then they're still disappointed with their lives because the people in their lives aren't treating them like kings, because they aren't having that immediate reinforcement that they were promised after putting all these things onto their mask instead of digging behind the mask and figuring out who they were and what their real intentions are. Find out what your intentions are before committing to the action, bro. So you stop disappointing yourself and you just appreciate what comes on the other end of that intention. See, now I'm just yapping. All right. You guys have a great rest of your day, and tap in with us on literally every other platform that we're on if you want to see us more than you're just getting us now, and I'll tap in with you guys in no time at all. Rock on. I love you guys.